Okay, so I forgot to start recording and we have done like 15 minutes of teaching. So I will go through what we have been talking up till now. So first we talked about the present value. Present value is nothing but the time value of money at any point in time. Then the value will be called as present value at that time. So we said that let's assume I have 100 rupees. I got salary as 100 rupees today. And I invest it immediately in a bank account. Okay. So then after 1 year, I will have 100 into 1 plus I. After 2 years, I will have 100 into 1 plus I square. After 3 years, I will have 100 into 1 plus I cube. This is the amount that I will have. So today's value, we just call it as present value. We don't need to mention it is at time 0. But the value at time 1, we'll call it as present value at time 1. This will be present value at time 2. This is present value at time 3. Now, even though the salary that I received, that is 100 rupees, that was today, we can still calculate the value in the previous years as well, even when it did not existed. The reason is whenever we are taking any finance subject, if I say I am getting a salary of 100 rupees today, it is converting actually the services that I have provided you. I am teaching you, that is why you will pay my salary. So basically I am converting one value into the other. But when we are considering finances, we are not going to convert salary or goods into money. We are not going to do that. We are going to say that we had some amount invested in the past that is earning us this 100 rupees today. So we are not going to consider that goods or services were sold and that is why I received money. We are going to assume that we had some money invested in the past that gave me 100 rupees today. So then it is very easy to calculate. Somewhere in the past, somewhere in minus infinity, I must have invested some money. For that, the value of 100 rupees I got today. Right? So then, if I want to calculate the value at minus 1, I will, as I was going forward, I multiplied by 1 plus I each year. So if I am going back, I will divide by 1 plus I each year. So 100 upon 1 plus I, 100 upon 1 plus I square, 100 upon 1 plus I cube. In a way, you can say present value at time t is just 100 into 1 plus I raised to t. Because this is nothing but 1 plus I raised to minus 1. This is 1 plus I raised to minus 2. This is 1 plus I raised to minus 3. Reciprocals. So present value at time t is nothing but 100 into 1 plus I raised to t. When we are considering compound interest. So t can still be negative, no problem. Then we said future value. Now future value is not a technical term. Everything is present value because these are all present values. But when we are considering cash flows, usually we have I invested X amount today and after N number of years I got Y amount. So we are dealing with two cash flows. So what we do is, one we call it as present value, the other we call it as future value. It's very easy to know. When we are receiving something in the future, we call it as future value. When we are investing it today or in near future, we'll call it as present value. So we'll have two values, invested, that we usually used to call it as principal. Now we'll call it as present value. And the amount that we'll receive in the future, we'll call it as future value, or another term that we are going to use is accumulated value. The term accumulation just means gathered. So how much value have we gathered in the future? That becomes the accumulation or the future value. Okay. So future value, accumulated value, or you can also call it as accumulation. Any of these terms. I'll use all of these terms interchangeably. Okay. These three terms I will be using interchangeably. So now we'll talk about accumulation factor. So we say the accumulation value is nothing but present value into the accumulation factor. The accumulation factor is written as a function of two times. That is, first time when we had invested the amount, and the second time when we are receiving the future value, or the we are calculating this future value or accumulated value. So accumulation factor is nothing but the ratio by which the cash flow increases when the cash flow is accumulated from time t1 to t2. So for simple interest, we can say future value at time n will be nothing but present value into 1 plus in. So accumulation factor from time 0, because we are starting from time 0 and we are going to time n. So accumulation factor 0 comma n would be nothing but 1 plus I into n. Similarly for compound, the future value at time n will be nothing but present value into 1 plus I raised to n. So accumulation factor 0 to n will be 1 plus I raised to n. Okay. Let me know if you have any confusion here. Now, whenever we are talking about selection of an interest rate, it's very interesting. So, how would we select an interest rate? Now, see, if I say that bank A is offering you 4% interest, bank B is offering you 5% interest, which one would you choose? You would definitely choose bank B, right? Because they are giving you higher rate of interest. We are talking about investment, not loans. Okay. So you're investing in the bank. So you'll definitely choose bank B. Is there anyone who is going to choose bank A? Is there anyone who is going to choose bank A? I don't think so, right? We are not going to choose bank A because clearly we are going to earn more interest in bank A, bank B. But similarly, if I say that mutual funds, if you invest in mutual funds, you can earn 12% interest. So, would you put it in bank or would you go for mutual funds? Okay, mutual funds, of course, because you are earning more interest. I will say in stock market, you can earn 30%. Maybe not 30%, let's say 20%. You can earn 20%. So, would you go for mutual funds or you would go for stock market? You would go for stock market, right? So why isn't everybody investing in stock market? So Mohammed said correct that risk is higher in stock market. So the reason we do not choose, stock market every single time for any investment is because the risk is high. We'll say here also we have risk, so but risk is medium. And here you will say risk is low. But in a way, here you will have the lowest risk. So depending on your aptitude of risk, you will choose an investment. Depending on the aptitude of your risk, you will choose an investment. Now the risk factor, how do we calculate risk? How do we realize for this much risk, how much returns shall we expect? This is part of CM2, not part of CM1. So in CM1, we are going to assume that we have zero risk. We are going to assume risk is zero. So if we assume that we have no risk, if there is no risk here, 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 and here, if there is no risk, clearly everybody is going to choose stock market because it has the highest returns. It's as simple as that. So if I offer you different rates of interest, you will always choose the highest rate of interest if the level of the risk is same. Here we are assuming zero risk, we have no risk, so definitely you will go for the highest returns. So that is why technically we will only have one type of interest, okay, that is acting at a given point in time, because everybody is going to choose the same returns that is going to give you the highest returns. You are going to choose the same kind of investment that is going to give you the highest returns if we assume zero risk. That makes sense. So what happens here is, when I'm showing you that you can have simple interest, you can have compound interest at different rates of interest as same rate of interest for X amount of time, Y amount of time. In that, we are just studying to compare what happens if simple interest is given, what happens if compound interest is given. But we will assume that when we are investing, okay, at the beginning we are calculating stuff. How much can I earn? How much can I earn here? How much can I earn here? And whichever is going to give me highest returns, I am going to use that for investment. Sometimes what happens is, even though I am showing you stock market is going to give you 20% returns, but the problem is it may actually go negative as well. You may lose money in stock market. That is what the risk factor we are talking about. You may earn averagely around 20%, but it may go higher than 20 and it may go lower than 20. It may go as low as negative. If the company goes down, all your money is lost. So in that ways, when we talk about risk, it may vary the rate of interest that you are going to earn, right? But as I said, in CM1 we are going to assume zero risk, and because we are assuming zero risk, we will be working with the same rate of interest for whatever time period we are talking about. But when I say for whatever time period I am talking about, does not mean that with time the rate of interest may not change. So I may say that for first 5 years, rate of interest is going to be 7% per annum. Then time 5 to 7 years, rate of interest is say 9% per annum, and for next 3 years rate of interest is, let's say, 8% per annum. Okay, let me make it as a question. If this is happening, find the accumulated value So find the accumulated value of rupees 700 invested today for 10 years. If interest rates are, first I'll talk about compound and then we'll talk about simple. What if I have the interest rate that I'm assuming is compound? What if the interest rate I'm assuming is simple? So first of all, we have 3 different rates of interest. I will say it is I1 is 7%, I2 is 9%, and I3 is 8%. Right? We can even make the timeline from which point to which point do we have which rate of interest. This is I1, this is I2, and this is I3. Now we'll say that if I calculate from time 0 to time 5, if I calculate from time 0 to time 5, okay, 700 I had invested today. This is the time. At time 0, I've invested 700. If I calculate from time 0 to time 5, how much will I have? So future value at time 5 is going to be 700 into 1 plus I raised to 5, 1 plus I1 raised to 5, first rate of interest. Right? This is going to be the amount that I have at time 5. Now after time 5, for the next 2 years, I will have I2 rate of interest. I will have I2 rate of interest. So if I assume that I had 981.786 at time 5, then I started getting 9% rate of interest. How much will I have at time 7? So this is future value at time 5. This is future value at time 7, and this is future value at time 10. This is what we are trying to calculate. So then I can say future value at time 7. For this, now the present value is going to be 981.786. Now I can say this 981.786 must be invested for 2 years for at this rate of interest of I2. Rate of interest of I2. So I2 is 9%. Now see, in this calculator, I just calculated this 981.786. Now I want to use this for my next calculation. For this, I can use this answer button. You can see here we have an answer button. You can use this directly. Here I can say answer into, I want 1.09 raised to 2. You can only use the just previous answer. You can use, see, if now I use answer, it will use this 1166.46. It will not use this 981 because every time it will change what the answer is. We'll always use the previous answer. Now that is the value that I have now at time 7. After that, I am receiving interest rate at I3 for the next 3 years. So I can easily calculate what my future value at time 10 is. That is going to be 1166.46 into 1 plus I3 raised to 3. So I3 is 8% going for the next 3 years. So answer into 0.08 raised to 3. That becomes my future value at time 10. Like here, if I want to write it in terms of present value, future value and accumulation factor. So I will say this is future value at time 5. That would be present value at time 0 into accumulation factor from 0 to 5. This is the equation. Here I can say this is nothing but future value at time 7 with present value at time 5, accumulation from 5 to 7. So basically you can say future value at time 5 is also the present value at time 5 because it's just the time value. Right? It is just the time value at time 5. We are naming future value just so that it is convenient for us to differentiate between which one is future and which one is today or past or whatever you want to call it. Similarly, future value at time 10 can be written as present value at time 7 into accumulation factor from 7 to 10. Any problem here? Okay. So I hope you understand what an accumulation factor is. Good. Now I will just do the same thing for simple interest. You can say future value at time 5 is going to be present value, that is 700 at time 0, into, I can say, accumulation factor 0 to 5. Accumulation factor for simple interest is going to be 1 plus I1 into n, that is 5. I1 was 7%. We have 945. I'll say that is also the present value at time 5 that I will use for the next calculation. So I want future value at time 7, 945 invested from time 5 to time 10, sorry, time 5 to time 7. I2 into 2 years. I'll use 945 as answer. And similarly, future value at time 10, take this 1115.1, accumulated from time 7 to time 10. Sorry, not 700, my mistake here. 945 and here 1115. So I will use answer. Okay. Now, Tajbir, you're asking how bank determines interest rate. Is it 5% or 7%? Now see, there are many different calculations that are need to be done. You have to figure out how the future is holding, how your economy is holding. So usually RBI does all those calculations and gives something called as a base rate. Okay. So the word is base rate or a repo rate. These are the words that they use. Okay. That's the minimum rate of interest that somebody should get. Okay. So let's say that the repo rate or the base rate set by RBI is, let's say, 5%. Then it is the minimum rate of interest that you are achieving. So usually what happens is there are many investment opportunities from government. You might have heard about gold bond. Gold bonds are very popular. But there are many different kinds of bond. Last year or this year at the starting, government also introduced infrastructure bonds. Okay, so there are many different kinds of bonds that government releases. The bonds are released by the government because they need money right now and they will give you returns after a few years. So usually the bonds that are released by the government are released at the repo rate. That's the minimum rate of interest that anybody can get. And the government bonds have almost zero risk. The chances that the government will not return you your money is almost negligible. So that is zero risk. Then comes, let's say, nationalized banks like SBI, HDFC, ICICI, big banks. Okay, SBI is actually a nationalized bank. It is a private company, but still very much supported by the government. So by any chance SBI loses all of their money, the government will not let them down. They will give them money to keep on running, because again they need one infrastructure that is at least supported from the government for everybody, for public. So the rate of interest of SBI, the simple rate, or let's say fixed deposit. We'll not talk about the what do we say, savings account. Okay, forget about savings account. We'll be talking about the fixed deposit. So fixed deposit rate of interest of SBI will be next. It will be, let's say, around 7%, because there is still a chance that SBI tomorrow, if it closes, then you will lose your money. Okay. Tomorrow, let's say SBI has massive losses and they have to shut down. So they will say that we cannot pay you the fixed deposit money that you had invested in us. So you will lose your money. The chance is very less, but still there is a chance. So what they have done is they have calculated how much risk factor an investor will assume, and they have increased the rate of interest according to that. So they are assuming that the consumer, the customer, will calculate that there is around 2% risk factor when I'm investing in SBI compared to the the government bonds. So that is why I should give 2% more interest. Then maybe there will be HDFC and stuff. They will also have nearly the same, interest. So 7%, 7.1%, 7.2%, something like that. Then comes mutual funds. So fixed deposit is very much more, less risky than mutual funds. So if there is a mutual fund that is offering you 7% returns, you will say, why would I invest in that mutual fund? Why don't I just put in FD? The chances of me losing money in FD is almost negligible. If the government, if the bank has promised 7% and I take out, 3 years of fixed deposit, let's say what happens is, after 1 year, the FD rate goes down to 3%. FD rate goes down to 3%. Still, the bank will have to give me 7% interest for the next 2 years as well. They cannot give me less than 7%. So the chances that I will lose money in fixed deposit is only if SBI, shuts down, and the chances of that is almost negligible. So what happens is, I would not invest in mutual fund that is giving me 7% interest. So now mutual funds should have to give me more returns. So mutual funds will offer you 12% interest. The reason they are offering you that, because they are assuming that's the risk that you are taking. You are taking about 5% more risk than the SBI, and that is why you are expecting 5% more returns. Or we'll compare it to the repo rate. So you'll say around 7% risk more than the repo rate, and that is why you are offering them 7% returns. Right. So this is how usually the how much returns or how much rate of interest a bank would keep is calculated. Okay. This is the risk versus returns ratio. You will learn that in CM2. Now same way, even for loans, the government, the RBI keeps a maximum interest that you can charge for certain type of loans. Like for home loans, they will set like you can charge maximum 13%. So most of the banks will charge around 12.5, maybe 12, right? So government does a lot of decision making in these kind of stuff. Okay, and the banks usually then offer slightly higher, slightly lower rates of interest. So now we were comparing the simple interest and compound interest. Clearly we know in compound interest we'll definitely earn more than what we have in simple interest. Okay. In every time frame, you will see that compound interest is going to earn you more. That is fine. But if you observe here, okay, what I am doing is I am taking 700 and first I am saying 1 plus I1 going for 5 years. Then I am using that. This is what I have. I am using that as present value here. So I have 1 plus I2 raised to 2 and then 1 plus I3 raised to 3. Now you can directly do this calculation to get future value at time 10. You can directly do this calculation. I'll show you. If I had 700 into 1.07 for 5 years into 0.09 for 2 years into 8% for 3 years. You can see exactly the same value. Right? It's exactly the same value. So you could have directly done this calculation. So what is happening here is we are calculating accumulation from 0 to 10, and that is same as accumulation from 0 to 5 into 5 to 7 into, let me write it properly, into accumulation 7 to 10. Right? Now same way, even for simple interest, it works exactly the same. Now usually when we say simple interest, we say that the interest is given on the principal amount. The principal that is invested here is 700. So you would think that for the complete 10 years, we should get interest only on the principal amount, that is 700. But that is not going to be the case. If the interest rate is changing, like here we are changing from I1 to I2, we are assuming that it is like I took out from bank 1 and I placed my money in bank 2. So bank 1 gave me 945. So I invested 945 in bank 2. So that is why I'm starting with 945. And this 2 years of interest I am getting on 945. That becomes my principal amount. Similarly, after 2 years I have 1115.1. I'm taking that out and reinvesting it in bank 3. In bank 3, I got this I3 rate of interest, and that is why you can see it is on this 1115.1, because it is like I'm reinvesting. So if rate of interest changes, it is exactly same as reinvesting. We are not going to give interest on only the initial principal. So here also my accumulation factor from 0 to 10 is accumulation factor 0 to 5, into accumulation factor 5 to 7, into accumulation factor 7 to 10. In both the cases, this is how it will go. Accumulation factors will always be multiplied or divided depending on the situation, but it will never be added or subtracted. You will never see an accumulation factor being added or subtracted to anything. Now this is called as principle of consistency. Principle of consistency says the return earned by an investor investing same amount of money for same duration should be same irrespective of the path of investment taken. So we are saying the path of investment should not matter if we are investing the same amount for the same duration. That means when we are investing from time 0 to time 10, or we are investing from 0 to 5, 5 to 7, and then reinvesting 7 to 10. This path should not matter. We should get the same returns. Now in compound interest, this is consistent, but in simple interest, it is not consistent, and that is why we don't really use simple interest for very long calculations, because it is not consistent. It does not follow this principle of consistency. If I change the path, then the amount that I am going to get is going to be different. But compound interest do follow this principle of consistency. So this just says that if I have, let's say, from time 0, just taking such times T0 to Tn, then accumulation factor from T0 to Tn will be same as accumulation from T0 to T1 and then T1 to Tn, or I can go from T0 to T1, then T1 to T2 and then T2 to Tn, or I can go from T0 to, let's say, T2 and then T2 to Tn. Any combination that I can think of will give me the same answer. That is what our principle of consistency says. Any path that I choose, either I can choose directly from T0 to Tn, or I can go from T0 to T1 and then T1 to Tn, or I choose T0 to T1, T1 to T2 and then T2 to Tn, or I choose T0 to T2 and then T2 to Tn. Any path that we take should give us the same returns. Because we are investing for exactly n years, and here we are assuming the investment is 1 rupee. That is what our principle of consistency says. Let me just open a book. We just open a question which we'll solve. Okay, or I think we should solve this question next time, but it's about this principle of consistency. I think we'll not have then time to discuss if you want to ask me any questions. So, see, I want to show you a few things. We are going to share all the materials and stuff using Google Classroom. So, when you pay the fees, after that, we are going to add you to a Google Classroom. I'm going to just show you how does Google Classroom work. There is an app in your there's an app in what do we say, in iOS and Android, that is Google Classroom. You can download that, or you can access from web browser. Okay, I would definitely ask you to download the app because we communicate through Google Classroom as well. Okay, we'll inform you what's happening and other things through Google Classroom. You can ask me any questions through Google Classroom. It becomes very easy. Then we are going to share material with you through Google Classroom. So you can see we have here course material. Then these are revision notes, We have chapter wise assignments, solutions of those chapter wise assignments. These are recorded lectures. Okay, so what happens is each of the lecture that is recorded is shared with you, that you can access whenever you want later on. Then the Excel material. There are few additional materials that are not actually part of the course, but simple videos like mistakes to avoid while you are doing the actual studies. There are equations in Microsoft Word, because for IFOA the examination is written on Word, so you need to know how to make equations and stuff. Calculator videos, all the calculator videos that we are going to, all the calculator stuff we are going to learn, I have made videos on it, and we can you can refer that whenever you want. Okay, some some 11 12 topics that are very important, like differentiation, integration, I've made some videos on it. You can refresh it. Then we have chapter wise tests. Okay, you can access your test here. You can submit your tests here also, and I'll correct and give you back your tests. Then we have mock papers. See, every semester we make a new mock paper, and all of them are available to you. Not from the beginning, but later on when it's important, you will get all of the mock papers. So this way what happens is you have a lot of material to access for your practice, like your book and assignments and everything, and also the recorded lectures. Everything is available here. Okay, so this is Google Classroom. So when you pay your fees, okay, Deepak sir, that is our manager, would be adding you to the Google Classroom. So your Gmail ID is going to be important for it, or Google ID, whatever you want to call it. Google ID is going to be important. Share your email ID as your Gmail ID. That will help us to add you in the Google Classroom. So after your payment is done, please contact. You can see the number below me, right? That is the office number. You should definitely contact them. Okay, that is the Deepak sir. He will inform you how you would access your Google Classroom. You will get an email in your Gmail and stuff. Okay. Anything else you would like to know? The timing. So timing. Saturday we will have 6 to 8 p.m. Okay. Usually I will take till 8. Sometimes it will go later also. Sunday we will have 11:30 to 1. Sorry, 1:30. 11:30 to 1:45. Let's take it as 11:30 to 1:45. This is morning, so this is AM. 1. So this is going to be our regular timing. Now one day I will be keeping as a doubt session in weekday, most likely Friday. Okay, we'll decide that. If you have any problem, you can say that, okay, don't take Fridays, take some other day. So we can take that. Okay, 6 to 8 p.m. we'll have doubt session. Now not from this Friday, but from the Friday after that we'll start keeping doubt session. So next week we'll not have any doubt session. So next week only Saturday, Sunday. But the week after that we'll start taking doubt sessions. So I will give you sums for practicing. So right now, like it's okay, we have not finished this chapter, but when we'll finish the chapter, we have questions at the end of the chapter as well. So from the book, you can download it from the what do we say, course material section, and we have been doing chapter 4. Okay. So you will see at the end of the chapter you have questions. You have questions in the middle of the chapter as well, but they have the solution there itself. At the end of the chapter you have these questions, and you have solutions after the questions as well. Okay. So I'll give you that as homework, and then some questions from assignments as well, that as homework. So that we'll start from the next week, and then whenever is a doubt session, most likely Friday, we'll discuss those doubts that you may have, or if you may have any doubts in concepts as well, you can ask me. We can discuss it on Friday as well. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I had one question regarding offline lecture. So, the other batch is going to start, or
No, we don't have the other batch. So offline lectures will only be in Vile Parle.
okay, sir.
And you should confirm that from Deepak sir. If we have enough student of Dadar, that are ready to come in Dadar, then sir may take Dadar batch. You'll have to ask there, because I don't know what is the right now. What is the configuration and how many students we have. I'm not sure about it. So you'll have to ask Deepak sir. Is there a Dadar batch this year or not?
Okay, thank you, sir.
So if I'm not free for doubt session, any alternative arrangement? See, if you're not free for doubt session, then uh, you can watch it online. That is the best way. And if you have any other doubts than that, you can definitely ask me on Saturday, Sunday. But I prefer that Saturday, Sunday we keep it for dedicated learning, and then doubt session separately. Okay? It becomes easier for you to prepare for doubt as well as the normal lectures. Right? But if you don't, if you are not available at that time, see, you can ask me to take the doubts at the beginning itself. So let's say on Friday morning or on Thursday evening, you write down your doubts in the Google Classroom that these are my doubts, and I can cover it on Friday, and you can watch it at the end of the day or next morning. Right? Yes, every lecture will be recorded, every lecture will be shared with you. Okay. So irrespective of whether you attended or not, you will have the lecture available with you. And what happens is I'll show you one thing. Okay. So here in recorded lectures, I have a link here of spreadsheet. Okay. Now this is all the questions that we did in which classes. You can see doubt sessions here. So we had classes, and in class I did solve these questions. This was also a doubt lecture basically. So every question that we have solved of our assignment and of our book, I list them here, and that makes it easy that let's say at the end of the course, now you want to figure out, okay, chapter 11 question 8, I don't know how did we do that. So you can go to this particular video and directly watch this video for this doubt. Okay, so every video is dated. So this is previous batch. That is why, these are dated for past. Okay. So as we go along, you will also have such a list, and you can always refer to them when you are, watching those videos later, or, solving your questions later. Later on we are going to start Excel. So Excel starts after we have completed chapter 13. Okay, so we will also have Excel lectures in our regular days. Okay, and if I feel like we are uh, lagging behind, then I may take some extra classes as well, but most of the times we will be able to complete our course within such that you will have 1 month gap for your examination. Most likely I think examination is starting from April 11th, from what I remember. It may be a few days here and there. So my aim is that till March 11th our complete course should be completed. So March 11th will be our target date to complete the course. So at the beginning we will have lecture, the topics that we are studying will go a little bit slow, but as we go along we will increase the pace. So you should practice every week. Whatever questions I am giving you, you should definitely practice them, so that first of all you can ask me any doubts you may have on the doubt lectures, and also you are not left behind. What happens is, if we delay our studies, maybe okay, we'll say okay, we don't need to do it this week, I'll do it next week, and then it becomes next week, and then it becomes next week. So in that ways, if we procrastinate, we are left behind. And when the application topics come, okay, when the application topics come, we may understand how the concept is done, but when it comes to solving question, we don't have that confidence, right? Because we don't know whether I'll be able to solve it properly or not. I'm not confident enough in solving those particular questions. So that is why take advantage of the free time that you are getting right now. I will next week talk about what are the things you should practice if you feel like you have more time, how to practice, what to practice, everything we can talk about next Saturday. Okay, so this, we will end this lecture today. And if you have any other question, you can contact us on the number, office number. Okay, Deepak sir will answer all your doubts. Bye. Welcome. Bye.